success is something which does not happen overnight. There are no cloudbursts of success that happen. But then yes, believe in yourself and keep doing what you are doing. Someday or the other, if you stick onto your ground, I'm sure success will come by.
Not that I realized it is just something that we fell into. It was something that we decided and took a very conscious decision on. But yes, I always wanted to do something in education. You take a lot of tough decisions during this time, and probably the biggest hardship that we faced was managing expectations.
Hello everyone and welcome to Humans of Nifty K Run. Today we have with us an amazing mother-daughter duo, Ankita Parashar and Jaya Parashar. Welcome ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Ekta.
Ma'am, I would like to ask you to give a brief description about yourself to our audience.
Well, that's a tough one. Can't be brief because it's a long life, 57-year-old life. So it's very difficult to be brief. But then yes, the key parts are that I am a double postgraduate, an MA, and also an MBA. Was working till got married a little, supposed early age in life, and was working till I think 2011, and then I started on my own. After that, my husband moved to Dubai. Obviously, the entire family moved with them, and since then, I have been on my own, doing something or the other. And started off with Stream Minds in 2017. That was a big decision of our life, which myself and Ankita took together.
Great ma'am. So you started Stream Minds at the age of 54, right? So how was your
Correct,
life?
that's right.
Yeah. So how was your life before Stream Minds came into being?
Like all wives of good corporate husbands, doing pretty well in their career. An IIT graduate my husband was, and was doing pretty well in his career, and that by default it's somehow in the Indian marriage fabric, it's so that the women tend to take a back seat in the as regards the career is concerned. So that was the same with me as well. So was going wherever my husband was going, and doing my tidbits here and there, because I am the one who cannot probably sit comfortably at home. I have to keep doing something or the other. So yes, I was working. I was teaching initially in the schools, and then of course I entered the corporate world as well. And yeah, life was going on and I was moving on with my husband to wherever he was posted.
Okay, great, ma'am. So, I would like to know that after Stream Minds began, what is one, since you were teaching earlier and then you were working in the corporate sector and then Stream Minds happened. So, what is one major change in your life that came up after you started this company?
I would say the one big thing that Stream Minds has taught me is immense amount of patience. Because that is one thing, when you're on your own, you require a lot of patience. And when we are working, and then you are a little more, free in your thoughts. But when you are on your own, working for your own self, especially when you are a bootstrapped company, there are a lot of things that you have to think about. Of course, initially we started at just that alright, a brilliant idea came to our mind, and we started off without probably giving certain things a great thought, a deep thought that would also probably pop up, which eventually did. There were times when we were taken aback altogether. We were not prepared mentally or even physically for those situations. But then yes, like I said, patience and that never say die attitude, as they say, which again is a very misconstrued phrase, I would say. But then yes, that is something that which kept me going, and that is one major change that brought me that I experienced.
Okay, so from your entire journey, what would you like to tell someone who is just entering into the business world? Like, what is the mind setup that we should have, like, from beforehand, that this all will happen, so we should be ready for that?
Uh, the biggest thing is that everybody enters or does something with an idea or with a thought of succeeding in that line. And success is something which does not happen overnight. There are no cloudbursts of success that happen. It happens bit by bit, slowly, gradually, in very small packages. So you have to, in order to keep yourself motivated, you have to enjoy those small moments, those small feats of a success. Very small thing. Okay, we got the one enrollment, we got the first enrollment. Oh wow, the second this we got another referral. So these small things, in life, in your businesses, that keep you motivated. Otherwise, if you look around yourself, your peer business world, uh, you see people who are doing extremely well. When you read these, stories about startups getting billions of dollars of funding support, that kind of dejects you someday. And then on the other hand, you read stories about startups closing down because they could not do well, and that disappoints you, that scares you, and both the situations are not very good for your mental well-being, so to say. So in this scenario, to keep yourself going is a tough task, but then yes, believe in yourself and keep doing what you are doing. Someday or the other, if you stick on to your ground, I'm sure success will come by.
That's really beautifully put, and that's a really great mantra. Okay, so in your company, I'm sure that you must have met different kinds of clients, some easy ones, some difficult ones. So I would like to know that how did you deal with the difficult clients? What was your reaction when we were met with rejection, or when somebody said no to you?
It's a very tough thing to face with, because you go with an attitude that you are probably offering the best thing in the world, and everybody would grab it at the first instance. And when that doesn't happen, it is very disappointing. Uh, but then, from the clients, from the prospective clients' point of view, you have to give them their space, uh, because you don't know what situation they are in, and it's good that you leave them. If they say no, respect that no, give them time, although keep in touch through, if not in the business terms, in the business way, say keep greeting them, or say a happy Diwali, or say a happy Holi kind of a thing, so that you are not out of their mind altogether. And of course, when you have given them their space and their time, you can strike it again. Like I said, never say die attitude. So you have to keep hitting it, even if there is a no set. You've got to keep hitting it all the time. And would you believe me, we have had clients who, after, kind of continuously for about, I think there was one school which we tied up with, but I was constantly following up that school with the principal of that school for 2 years. And finally they said no. They said yes.
Great.
And
That's
we signed
really
up with them.
great. That's really great. So
Thank
we
you.
should never give up. That's the only strategy we should
Never
follow
give
in
up.
life.
Never give up. Never give up.
Okay. So like, is it a particular strategy that you follow to approach your stakeholders?
When you approach them, whatever your offering is, be honest. What you can do, just pitch or claim to be doing that. Do not claim big things that you probably will not be able to deliver. And ironically, or I would say that happily, that this is something which has worked for us, because all the schools, all the accounts that we signed up with, they are the ones who had probably burnt their fingers with other big names. So committed a big thing, and they could not probably deliver to those commitments. So the only way of going ahead, or striking a chord with your potential this thing, is to be honest with them, that okay, we can do this much, you can try only this much, and later on, let us be comfortable with each other, and then we will also build on our capacity, you will also build trust with us, and then we can expand. So best way is to keep your cards very plainly and honestly.
Okay, so you're like transparency is the key over here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so as you said that today so many startups are coming up and so many startups are closing down, right? According to you, for a successful business, like what are the criterias that are there?
There is no, because every business is I mean, in its own way. But I would, like I said, never say a die attitude. Patience is something, and keep motivating yourself for the very small feats that you accomplish in your businesses. That is the only way to keep going ahead. Otherwise, for being dejected, for being disappointed, there are many reasons, thousands of reasons for you to close down your business. Because even we have had situations like that. We have even thought of a couple of times that, all right, let's close it down, it's not working. But then at such times, it's something else that you, all right, it might work. Just one moment, and just keep going. For all you know, that turns out to be in your favor and works well for you. That is the only way. Never, never, never give up.
Yeah. So all this time you said, right, that there were times when you thought that all things are going bad and maybe there was a time when you thought of giving up. So could you just tell our audience like what are the hardships that you faced in your journey?
Uh, See, when we were doing pretty well, very comfortable in Dubai. Ankita had a good job, a well-paying job. Then my husband was very well placed. I was doing small things there, very, very good life, comfortable life. And when we decided to come down here to India to start off this business, we had great hopes. And of course, this was a very quite a new thing, so to say, at that time, because teaching schools and college students robotics and 3D printing and coding, we thought it's a new age technology which everybody would probably jump at and try to grab it. And our first, uh, I would say, experience with this thing with reality was that nothing of the sort happened. I mean, we were here, we were advertising ourselves everywhere, and there were nobody. No, there was a situation when we let out, we distributed about 40,000, flyers, inserts in the newspapers and all, in the so to say, the upmarket areas of the city. There was not even a single call we received. So that was very, very disappointing. But then still we thought that, okay, since we do not have much to kind of lose, so we thought that, all right, let us keep doing, let's try some other ways. We will not waste much of more money in this, and try other ways. So we started, calling, introducing ourselves personally to people living close by. They started also, we said, all right, we'll start giving free classes to your children. That is how we started. We gave a couple of classes free to the children. They liked us. And after that, will you believe, we have never advertised after that. It has always still, it's been almost 2.5 years since then. It's always been only word of mouth, nothing else. We haven't advertised.
That's really great, ma'am. I'm so happy that you didn't stop at the first roadblock. Otherwise, we would not have been talking today.
So nice of you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so you started at the age of 54, right? Uh,
Correct.
so was there a turning point in your life which made you realize that I should start this business and become an entrepreneur?
Not really. That was basically for Ankita because she was very, very passionate about it. And initially, it was started off as a support gesture to her. And she's an educationist in her heart. I was with, but see, for me, it was a big decision because I had to leave my husband and my younger daughter back in Dubai and come to India. So this was initially a support mechanism. But then, yes, there was not a turning point, so to say. Like I said, we came here with a lot of enthusiasm and all. We thought that, all right, okay, once it is all set up, then we will hand over it to some other professionals, and we will probably I will go back to Dubai with my husband and live happily thereafter. That was the plan. But turned out that I turned out to be an entrepreneur myself.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so not many people get to have their mother as their business partner. So how does it feel that you are having a company with your daughter and you're doing so well?
Uh, uh, it is not a very comfortable thing. Like if you're fighting at home, you might be fighting at the office as well. So that is the one. Otherwise, other than that, as regards the professional part goes, we have our roles defined. She takes care of certain things, I take care of certain things. However, we do discuss things amongst ourselves, but normally I do not interfere in what she is doing, and she doesn't interfere in whatever I am doing. Uh, that said, but whenever we are in double minds, she in herself, in her space is double-minded or in a doubt. Same is the case with me. We take each other's, opinion, and we discuss out things and do whatever is the we think is the best for the situation for the company.
Great, ma'am. Looking back, would you like to change something if given an opportunity? Anything?
You know what? My children have shown me a lot of these time movies. Action Replay was one, and some other movie also they showed me. With all these things, I think it is best that the past is left as it is, because if you try to change anything in the past, probably what is happening in the present would not have happened. So I would not like to change anything that has happened. Let it be. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had this present, or would not have the future.
So you're pretty much happy how things have turned out, right?
Yeah, I am satisfied how things have turned out.
Okay. So since your company caters to students, would you like to tell something to the parents?
Uh, See, for the parents, it is, I will take a moment for that. But because I've been a parent myself, I have given the freedom to my children to choose whatever things they want to do. It is very important for the parents to realize what is the interest of their children from a very young age. For example, Ankita was very interested in reading right from the very beginning. She was very small when she was very interested in reading. However, my younger daughter is not that interested in reading. So I could sense that, and you kind of inculcate that habit more, and then let them choose their readings. She used to then earlier she would, pursue their whatever gives them pleasure and happiness. So that is very important thing. Realize what your children's interest lies in, and then help them pursue that.
Okay, great. Like apart from being such an amazing mother, right? This role of entrepreneur, like how are you managing both of them?
Now that both my children are grown up, it's not a tough task. It's not difficult at all. But when I was working, I was younger and the children were small. That was a little challenging. But then, yes, I coped along. We were living in small places which had a lot of facilities available to us. So did not have much of a difficulty at that point in time as well. But right now, it's absolutely no problem. They are on their own. They are grown up with children. So balancing motherhood and work is absolutely no problem at this point.
Okay, great. Is there some message that you would like to share to the female entrepreneurs of this country and everywhere?
Female entrepreneurs, I would say, face different kinds of challenges. Uh, being a woman is a challenge in itself, and then being an entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur, fighting with competing with the other male counterparts, male peers, is a challenge in itself. But then if you have to show your grit, continue, have faith in yourself, continue doing what you are doing. uh, like I said, success may not come immediately or overnight. It comes little by little, day by day, and it eventually will. So just keep going, keep going. You have these small fights, no small challenges in your in the competition, the male dominated competition, and then that's okay. That's everywhere. Keep facing them, keep going.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable inputs. It was really a pleasure talking to you and having you over here.
Thank you so much, Ekta. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
I hope we get to talk again in the future. Till then, please take care.
I hope so too. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So, moving on to Ankita, the co-founder of Stream Minds LLP. Welcome, Ankita. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much. Okay, so there's so much that I want to discuss with you. So let's just dive into the session.
Absolutely. Ready to go. Yeah.
Okay, so please tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am the co-founder of Stream Minds. We are an edtech company. We train school students, and we started by training just school students in robotics, 3D printing, engineering, science, and coding. However, down the line, we've also received a lot of interest from college students, from people who wish to intern with these companies to gain some experience, real life experience in utilizing their knowledge that they have gained in their engineering or other related degrees. So we've been doing this. You already spoke with Mrs. Jaya Parashar, the two of us. We've been at it since April 2017. It's been quite an interesting journey. I had prior experience as a STEM educator. I was doing the same back in Dubai. However, I was associated with another company, and I was one of the trainers there. Alongside STEM training, I was also taking creative writing classes for kids as well as adults, because reading, writing, language is my first love. So that is something I've been doing since I was old enough to read, and I have umpteen relatives who can testify that. So that is, I mean, to this day, to this very day, my day begins and ends with reading something or the other. So I will always start my day with reading, and I'll always end it with reading. So I'm a huge nerd, bona fide nerd, completely.
Okay, so as ma'am said that you were interested in reading like right from your childhood, right? So did you ever think that one day you'll become an entrepreneur and then you'll be running this company ever?
Not an entrepreneur per se, but I always had this passion for teaching. For example, when I remember when I was young, I had some trouble making friends because I don't know why. If you score well in classes in India, you somehow, for some reason, are ostracized completely. They don't want to be friends with be friends with the teacher's pet. So I faced some of these classroom politics, so as to say, from my fellow students. But I remember that my parents used to buy the textbooks for the next year, a little prior to the academic year beginning. And I would be done by, I would have read all the English stories, the entire textbook, the entire history textbook, the entire science textbook, the entire social studies textbook, everything except for math. I would have gone through in a complete detail, like solved the questions at the end of chapters and did whatever exercises that were related to that completely. So that was my level of nerdiness. and I enjoyed that so much because I liked reading these stories. That's what they were to me. These textbooks were stories about different subjects. There were different stories about how there are different concepts that we have to adhere to in society, how there are small things that are related to geography, the whole how does the sun rise and the tides and everything. These were all stories, apart from the obvious stories that you would find in your English and Hindi textbooks. And I devoured those. And I used to teach an imaginary class in my room. I would just imagine that there are children here and I'm the expert in the subject, and I would take a chalk and a piece and on the wall I would just scribble absolute gibberish. And then that was my playtime. I would just play on my own just like that. Actually, my sister was the victim of all of this. So she used to be the one of the students in the class. So that's how it came about. The idea or the dream to be an entrepreneur was something that, not that I realized it, it is just something that we fell into. It was something that we decided and took a very conscious decision on. But yes, I always wanted to do something in education.
Great. Also, currently, do you identify yourself as a storyteller? Since you said that right from beginning, right, you saw everything in the form of stories. So, can we say that you identify yourself as a storyteller?
A storyteller and story devourer. I mean, to a point where we are one of our products that we have patented, the Stream Minds has patented, is to teach electronics to really, really young kids. And these kids are as young as 6 years old. And you have to tell them how to lay down a circuit. What are the components of a circuit? What is the role of those individual components in a circuit? Now, if you were to go by the actual definition of those components, these kids are going to lose interest in the first 20 seconds. So how do you hold their interest? How do you get them interested in this? How do you get them to learn something new? You do it by way of storytelling. You do it by way of analogy. You do it by way of relating these things to something that they already see or use around them. So it's a way of building stories and figuring out how you can connect with them in a language in which they understand and at a level at which they understand. So we are not trying to get them to be absolute professionals. Like tomorrow he will come and these kids will come and fix your AC. We are not trying to make them that proficient that in that regard, but we are trying to give them an exposure to something new, something very exciting, and a new way of learning STEM. So you do it by way of understanding electronics through storytelling.
So when you approach these kids, right? Like, how do you convince them? Ki, see, this is the thing. This is something which elders do, but we have brought it to you. And like, how do you make them interested in your venture?
Like I said, again, you do it by way of giving them very relatable examples. If you're teaching them a circuit about motors, you tell them about where you find motors. You find a motor in your fan. So you'll ask them, oh, everybody knows what a fan is. So you have them hooked. Now, when you ask them, do you know how a fan works? They say, oh, we switch on a switch. Then you ask them, what does the switch do? How does it let electricity travel from the switch to the fan? And then slowly but surely you build up on this topic. So you've taught them about motors, you've taught them about a switch, you've taught them about electricity, you've taught them about wires, you've taught them about current and voltage. So you keep building up on these topics just by asking them a simple question that they can relate to. Like I said, these are really, really young kids. So the examples also need to be simple, and the language also needs to be simple. If you're trying to explain a completely new concept, which is slightly more complex in nature, one thing that I have learned works very well with kids is a combination of storytelling and role playing, where you give them individual parts. They play parts of the circuit, and you are literally enacting the circuit out. So there's a very novel way of teaching them electronics, and it's extremely fun because everybody wants to participate. So you end up making the same circuit 3-4 times because everybody wants to be the resistor, everybody wants to be the LED. So that way you reiterate the same concept again and again so that they remember it, but at the same time you make that class fun so that they keep coming back for more. They are more interested, like, okay, let's do another circuit this time. So that's how you keep them hooked.
Yeah, so kids are very curious by nature. Once you just put an idea in their head, they keep on asking you about it, right? But
Absolutely.
how do you approach the parents who have already developed completely?
Actually, there are two sides to this. Number one, I want to actually applaud the parents that we currently have on board because they are absolutely fantastic. I mean, these parents have a very good idea about how they want their children to be engaged, how long they want their children to be engaged in studies and playtime and rest time and tinkering time. So these parents have a fantastic idea. They have their kids schedules in place, and it gives them a sense of control over the situation, which is what we are facing currently. I mean, it's so easy to lose track of things if you don't have a proper schedule in place, because you're no longer waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning to go to school. Now you don't have to do that. You can sit at home and take an online class whenever that happens. So that way, I believe that the parents that we have on board currently who are taking classes with us have a fantastic schedule in place, and I applaud them for planning this far ahead. The other side is that the new parents that come to us, they sometimes they come to us with slightly exaggerated expectations, that they ask us for a time frame, like how long will it be, how long will it take before my child is absolutely proficient in robotics or is absolutely proficient in electronics. And it's a tightrope act to balance their education, their expectation, and the education of their children. Because like I said, and I keep telling them, that the idea is to not get them to go at a level where they are able to completely be like they can be masters at age 12 in electronics. That's not the idea. The idea is to get them exposed to a new way of learning, a new way of seeing science and technology, where they can actually use their hands, they can use their eyes and see, they can make new things using concepts that they are learning in class, and then they are actually utilizing it in real life. And that's the idea. So in order to balance those expectations of parents, where they ask like how long will it be before our child is absolutely perfect in it, the answer is never. Because even the teacher is not perfect in it. There is bound to be something that stumps the teacher also at one point. There's no level of perfection. Yes, there is a level of expertise, but that, just like everything with language, with any new skill you pick up, you will reach that level of expertise only with time and patience. So that is something that it's part of convincing the parent is actually counseling them too in this area. So that is a very honest conversation we have with them right from the beginning, that the idea is for them to get them to have fun. And if they are not interested in coding as a subject, they are not going to be good at it, and it's pointless to even force them into it, because it's not going to happen. They're going to shut off completely. Whereas you can actually try to engage them into something else. Perhaps they enjoy designing, so you can introduce them to 3D printing, which has different aspects of designing into it. So it's a tightrope act, but at some point you get to have a truce with the parent, where they say, okay, fine, let's just get them started first.
Okay, great. So, did you ever face a very difficult parent where the kid was very much interested into that, but it was very difficult to convince the parent to bring them on board?
Not really, actually, because most of the times parents do listen to what the child wants, and if the child is really interested in the class, they will encourage them to do so. However, we did have a parent who brought in his a 4-year-old daughter, and he wanted to enroll her in our programs, and I very honestly told him that she's a tad bit too young for our program, because we start from ages 6 onwards. So it's going to be very, very soon. She won't understand. It will be a waste of your money, your time, and her time as well. So you might as well wait it out a bit. And he was a bit insistent. He said that she's very bright and she can cope up with this. And I mean,
And
he constantly wanted to
she
show
was 4 years old, right, at that time.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, at that time. And he kept pushing for the fact that she can manage it, and I kept trying to reason with him, saying that she's too young. She does not even understand language properly. She can't even read simple instructions on the keyboard, on the laptop. How will she cope up with other classes? uh, by anyway, so we came to an understanding that perhaps it would be best for him to wait. And he said that, okay, fine, if I come to you 2 years later, and if she takes a course with you, if she takes a course with you for some time, will it help her in her college admissions? And at which point, I'm just wondering, this is a 4-year-old child. She's not even in grade 1 yet. So that was a bit tough. I was literally lost for words for a while. But then again, we had a a huge round of reasoning once again, at which point it was decided that perhaps they'll wait for another 2 years till she's old enough, and then they can come back and explore the options that we have, which will only help her understand science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math, and nothing else at this point. So yeah, so we've had a few instances like that too.
Okay, that's a very interesting story, I must say. Okay, so
Yeah.
how was your life before Stream Minds, and how it became after that? What major changes have got?
Life before Stream Minds was extremely comfortable, steady paycheck, no issues anywhere. I mean, the future looked really bright and sunny, and everything was well and good. Excuse me. um, After Stream Minds, obviously, like Mrs. Jaya mentioned earlier, this was a completely bootstrapped venture, and you take a lot of tough decisions during this time. And she started it, we both started it when she was 54 and I was just on the cusp of turning 30. So it was a milestone that I was reaching to, and at that time we took this big huge decision which meant a lot of things for the future. Leaving Dubai, leaving a comfortable job, leaving a steady paycheck, all of this was combined. And obviously for the first few months, the first year, I would say, was a huge learning experience because all our best laid plans just did not work out. Everything that we had thought and prepared for, we it was something completely opposite at every turn. So we literally had to reinvent our strategy, we had to reinvent ourselves, we had to reinvent the way that we were approaching our own business, and start from a fresh slate after having started the business. So that was something that we had not prepared for, which was a huge learning experience. As well, I wouldn't call it a setback because initially the first few years are supposed to be like that. I mean, if it's smooth sailing completely, then there is something wrong. You're not learning. So everybody needs to have that one stumbling block in order to learn from their failures, which is a huge philosophy of STEM learning. It's learning from your failures. So we implied that in our own business model. We literally learned from our failures. So that was interesting, I would say.
Okay, great. So what is the since you said that you did face roadblocks in the very first few years of your company, right? So what is the biggest hardship according to you that you faced?
Uh, Probably the biggest hardship that we faced was managing expectations. It's a very human tendency to have expectations from yourself and from your business, and you just expect things to work a certain way because you would say that, hey, I put in x amount of hard work into it, I must get this y as a result of it. And that does not happen. So it's a huge challenge to manage those expectations, to keep yourself grounded and realistic, and then to also manage a failure as well, because it's a part and parcel of life. I mean, even the big companies are facing small failures every day. It's something that you just cannot escape. So that, I believe, would be the biggest challenge that we face. It was simply just managing expectations.
Okay. So let's talk about the bootstrapping. Like, how did you fund your venture?
We've basically funded our venture like everybody does. You fund it by using the certain amounts of fund that have kept aside for whatever reason it could be. I mean, people call it savings, and which is what it was. We had saved some money over the last few years that we were both working, and we utilized part of those savings in order to start this business. And initially, like I said, the first year it was definitely difficult because the entire operations was sustained only via our savings. We did not have that many enrollments in order to uh, basically take care of the operations completely. But as time went on, as more people started to get to know us, as we kept delivering good results, we kept getting more enrollments, and the businesses kept getting bigger and bigger in terms of the checks that were coming in. And uh, before the coronavirus, we were absolutely fantastic. As I would say, we were in the best situation we ever were. So Streamminds was fantastic before the whole pandemic.
Okay, so since you have brought the infamous
Pandemic.
pandemic, yes. So let me ask you, like, what was the major impact of lockdown for your business?
I guess the biggest impact was to see the kind of impact it was having on our stakeholders, which in this case were schools. So we had tied up with some really big, good established schools in our city, and it's not just the big guys that are crumbling under the pressure of this pandemic. It's the small ones too, and the entire education industry at this point is looking at a it's looking at a very probably the change has come too soon. It would have resulted in the same thing probably 7 to 10 years down the line, but we are now having to deal with these technological advancements almost suddenly. And we realize that the teachers that we have currently in the system are not equipped or trained enough to handle these kind of this way of teaching. And to be very honest with you, learning on a computer screen is something that has been a reality only in the past few years for adults. For children, it has never been the case. And they have trouble as it is learning with a physical teacher present in the room. And you have a lot of situations that happen there. It's very difficult for them to completely understand what is happening on a screen via teachers sitting remotely. So it's a tough situation for the teacher and the student as well. And companies like mine, the everybody who's into the after school activity programs or are into optional programs like us, we are still not deemed essential to the education industry. So we are still an option for the parents. They would still opt for or to utilize all their energy and resources to get their children to take these online classes that the schools are offering. And the schools are offering everything from dance classes to music classes to yoga classes online these days. So they are like the one-stop solution for all your kids' needs. So people like us, we are still an option. So that, I guess, would be the two big setbacks that we've had, is that our stakeholders are now facing such a huge challenge that they can no longer they're finding it very difficult to accommodate us in their regular schedule, because they themselves have to deal with so much on their own. And the second is this whole non-essential tag that we currently have now. We from something that people opted for as an after school activity, now we've become optional in the big sense of the word, that it's a choice between going probably playing ludo with them at home, or to do this class with us online, which obviously comes at it's not free. It comes at a price. Be it mind that it'll be a pretty nominal price, but it's still it's a price at the end of the day. So
Okay.
that's I think one of the two biggest challenges. I think it's not just my industry. There's a domino effect across a lot of industries, so as to say. So I don't think we are in a very unique position. We are facing challenges that almost all industries out there are facing.
Okay. So what steps have you taken to cope with it?
So the first thing that we did was we reached out to all our parents that were taking classes with us. We reached out to them to say that we recognize that it is important to be empathetic at this point, and not to simply look at making profits, which would be uh, a very shallow thing to do. So we reached out to them to say that we would still be continuing online classes because we want the children to be engaged productively, and we want their education in STEAM to continue. So we started offering the classes. We have cut down on our, the cost of the classes. We've cut them down significantly so that it is not a burden for the parents anymore, and they can still engage us. And we still have like a steady cash flow that is coming into the company. Obviously, needless to say, it is not as much as it was pre-pandemic, but that's true for all industries, like I said. So At this point, we are going with the mentality of something is better than nothing. At the same time, because you're constantly there, you are present in their lives, you stop becoming an option, which is something that is the philosophy we are trying to change. That don't think of this as an option. We are not an option, we are there, we are part of your permanent life. We are there, we will educate your kids. It is going to go side by side. Let them attend school, and we are going to give them a different kind of education where they can utilize the concepts that they've learned in school in a very practical, scientific manner. So that's something that that is a dialogue that we had started very early on. And thanks to these two combined philosophies, we actually have two new signups that happen almost every 15 days with us since we started this thing. At the same time, now that the schools have realized that this is going to be probably a permanent thing, they are trying to figure out ways to incorporate us as a special program. So it's not going to be a complete academic program like we used to have with them, an entire year-long arrangement, but it will be like special programs that they will float to the kids based on different projects or based around different topics. So again, we will be there in front of them, we will be present. We will provide them something different from what the school is doing. So we will give the school a hand in making education fun for them. So that's the idea. So these are the two things that we are currently working
Great, Ankita. I hope this pandemic ends soon and we all can resume back to our life.
on. I hope so too. I hope so too.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the same question that I asked ma'am. That
Yeah.
since not many people get a chance to work with their mothers, you got one, and she's such an
Yeah.
amazing individual and such an amazing mother, and now she's such an amazing business partner. What is the like? What's the best thing that you like about working with her?
The best thing that I like working with her is that she takes care of difficult situations where I cannot function. So my strengths don't lie where her strengths lie, and that is it's a good balance that we have together. She is extremely calm under pressure. When things are stressed out, she is not fumbling or struggling for answers. She's able to see the situation for what it is and analyze the best outcome for it right now. So she can handle things right now, which is the best thing to work with her. She comes with such a solid work experience of 25 years before she even started working on Streamminds. So people keep asking me, what is it like working with your mother? I said, it's fantastic, because as a professional, let's remove that tag. First of all, if I were to start Streamminds on my own, for me to get a professional on board with her experience and her level of skill
It is
set,
very difficult.
I would not have been able to afford it for the next 10 years. So her contribution is absolutely, you can't even compare it with anything at this point. It's absolutely crucial to the heart of Streamminds.
Great. My major takeaway from that session was patience and never give up attitude, which she kept stressing on. So it was really lovely session
Absolutely.
with her.
Absolutely. There's a lot of mental fortitude that is required, and she definitely has that.
A lots of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so like, what's one message that you would like to tell the students who will be seeing this?
To the students, please come and take a class with us because we offer fantastic sessions. But to be very honest with you, we actually do. The reason why, I think she mentioned how we have not really advertised in any of the commercial channels since we've burnt our hands. Most of our business has been word of mouth, and that is something that we take huge pride in. It's because these are that many happy, satisfied parents or students who've gone out and spoken to their friends or their parent friends and said that, hey, I want you to check out this company. So my message to the parents would be, come take a class with us. We are offering demo classes initially for no cost at all. You can see for yourself whether you find any merit in what we are teaching. We have different courses that are completely flexible, so there is no compulsion of enrolling for a set period of time. You keep learning for however long you want to and you're comfortable with. And we will make sure that it is fun for you and that you get to learn something new.
Great. So currently there's only word of mouth marketing from your side, right? There's no advertising going on.
Yes. So like I said, no commercial advertising, as in we haven't really released any newspaper, any news advertisements or paper advertisements. We haven't really done any digital marketing as such. We do release a lot of our in-house creatives on our social media channels, but then again, we are releasing it, so we are not paying somebody else to, you know, to basically utilize those services. So it's not advertisement per se. We keep running special schemes for our existing customers, or for the locality or the community that we are a part of. And these things are done on a very intimate level. We do it during community networking events. We do it when we are part of certain entrepreneurial ventures where there are a lot of mothers present, so that they can come and interact with us and the kind of product offerings we have. So we believe in interacting with the parents and the students face to face, so that they can come and judge for themselves like what they are getting into. So these kind of these events we've been a huge part of, and that's something that we've seen working for us.
Okay. So one message that you would like to give the parents, Mrs. Jaya Parashar gave from her parents' perspective. I would like to know what you would like to share.
I would definitely like to say that I know it's a difficult time for them, but at the same time, kids are so naturally inquisitive that it's good to give them different avenues to express and to use this curiosity in a productive manner. And Streamminds is there at your beck and call. We have so many different courses that they can engage in, and like I said, they come at a very nominal cost. You can come with us. I mean, price at this point is simply a compulsion. At the end of the day, it's getting your children engaged and involved in something that is useful for them. It's giving them a new set of skills that they can utilize in their day-to-day life. Perhaps the robotics classes that they take with us, once they are good enough in it, they can start making small robots in and around the house of their own, like a lot of our students have actually done. They enjoy it so much that they purchase the parts from us, and then they start making these small robots on their own. And then they send us these clips saying that, ma'am, we've made this, and this is how we utilize this particular sensor to make something else. So it's a fun way to get them to explore their creativity, and at the same time get them to learn how concepts in science and technology can be utilized in a real life context. They can see it working in front of them.
It's a very interesting concept, and it's very creative, especially from a child's perspective. It's very creative, especially sensors and LEDs and everything. I'm sure it's very creative for the parents as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we had a student of ours who wanted to create a security system by making robotic T-Rexes. And it was, they come up with such fantastic idea, and we had to tell them that as a security measure, a T-Rex would be the worst thing that you can do, because that model has so many balance issues. Why don't you make something else? Why don't you make a car which has different sensors that you can use for surveillance in and around the house, if that is what your biggest concern is. So they come up with such outlandish ideas,
And
but they are all so creative and unique.
And how young are we talking about? Like, how young are these kids?
Right from 5. Our youngest was 5.5, and the oldest was 14.5. So
5.5 is pretty young.
5.5 is pretty young, and he was extremely interested. He was learning electronics. He knew what a resistor was. He knew what a potentiometer was. He knew what an RGB was. He knew what wavelengths. What is the concept of wavelength? He knew that at 5.5. So it's extremely interesting when they go home and they tell their parents that this is what I learned, and their parents are also impressed that who would have thought that a 5.5-year-old would understand the concept of wavelengths. So that is the power of storytelling.
Yeah, totally. I believe now that you're a great storyteller, Ankita.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so lastly, I would like to ask you that do you have any message that you would like to give to the entrepreneurs?
Mm, I don't think I am a good enough entrepreneur at this point to actually give advice, so as to say. But one thing I can definitely tell somebody who's thinking of or planning to start a venture of their own is to read and do as much research on what in whatever area it is that they want to start their venture in. And sometimes I know it sounds disappointing to hear this, but sometimes a good idea is just not enough. You need to be able to sustain yourself financially, emotionally, and mentally for those initial few years or months where your company may or may not be making that much money. So you need to be financially prepared for that. A lot of people actually miss out this very important part between all those that motivational talk, but it really does something very interesting to your psyche when you see that there's a lot of money going out, but there is not enough coming back in. And that is a journey every entrepreneur has to take at some point, till your company is well and established enough, till your idea has been validated and you've put it out there. You have put yourself out there at the mercy of the people, saying that okay, now I'm ready for your ideas and your opinions. And then you start floating your business around, and slowly but surely uh, you start building back yourself back up financially. So those initial few years, they are pretty taxing, they are extremely challenging, but if you have the right mindset, and if your vision is right, and if your product is good, if your attitude also is good towards it, I'm pretty sure that you'll be fine. You'll land on your feet.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ankita. We have reached towards the end of our session. It was one of my best session talking to you both. It was
Thank you so
it
much.
was a wonderful session. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and I wish you guys all the best. You guys are doing fantastic work, and I
So much.
hope that you keep telling more stories about other interesting women, and not just women, actually, other interesting people from around the world.
Sure, sure. That's the agenda, and we'll keep letting you posting about it so that you might know whenever we are doing such stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really looking forward to it for sure.
Okay. Okay, Ankita. Thank you so much for your time and all your valuable inputs. Okay. So take care and bye bye.
Thank you. You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay.